everyone. Welcome to episode 18 of the WoW series. And if you have just joined us, no, WoW isn't just your reaction to these podcasts, even though we love that. It actually stands for words of wisdom. This is an exclusive initiative by the Winner's Circle, a pan India CA student led community, with its tagline From Peers to Professionals, where we bring to you the realest stories and inspiring journeys from people who have actually lived through the grind and made it big. But hey, before I reveal our phenomenal guest for today, and trust me, you'll want to stick through the end, I have got a little surprise to share. Our very first project is officially in the works, and it is something super close to our hearts. We are talking about anthology titled Education, a power packed collection of write ups from CA students who have braved it all. The sleepless nights, the self doubt, the reattempts, the hustle, and still have came out shining. It is basically a roller coaster of emotions, only this time it is in book format. So make sure you're following us through all the handles because trust me, you don't want to miss this launch. Now, there are toppers, there are achievers, and then there is one name that the entire CA fraternity says with equal parts of awe and admiration. And luckily, he is our guest for tonight, CA Rajan Kabra. Guys, let's be honest. हम सब ने कभी ना कभी सुना है कि सीए एग्जाम्स टफ हैं. But today we are talking about someone who didn't just clear CA. He cleared it with fireworks, headlines, and a permanent seat in ICI history. CA Rajan Kabra Sir isn't just an everyday topper. He is a hat-trick topper. AIR 1 in CA Foundation, AIR 1 in CA Intermediate, and again AIR 1 in CA Final. The only kind of triple entry that ICI has ever loved. फाउंडेशन में जब AIR 1 आया सब बोले वाह क्या लड़का है. इंटरमीडिएट में फिर AIR 1 आया तो दुनिया बोली ये कोइंसिडेंस है. और जब CA फाइनल में AIR 1 आया तो ICI खुद बोला कि बस भाई अब सिलेबस ही बदल देते हैं. दैट इज राजन काबरा फॉर यू, कंसिस्टेंसी के ब्रांड एम्बेसडर. 3 levels, 3 times, 3 rank ones. That's not luck, that's legacy. After his All India rank 1 in CA Intermediate, he began his professional innings at KPMG as an article trainee. And just when most of the people would be happy balancing ledgers, Rajan sir decided to balance business strategies by joining BCG as an industrial trainee in consulting. From vouching invoices to valuing vision, he has done it all. But here's the thing about Rajan sir. He is not your typical CA who just dreams in Excel sheets and tally format. He is curious, grounded, and intellectually vibrant. He has got a mind that loves geopolitics. When most people scroll through memes and he is reading about Middle East conflicts and global trade shifts, like he is studying the world while the world is studying him. Ironic, right? So now for someone as iconic as him, एक छोटी सी शायरी तो बनती है. राजन काबरा, नाम जो टॉप चार्ट्स में लिखे, 3 बार AIR 1, ये रिकॉर्ड सबसे अलग निकले. KPMG से BCG तक का सफर बड़ा जबरदस्त, नंबर्स के साथ इनका जियोपॉलिटिक्स भी मस्त. मेहनत और ब्रिलियंस का ये परफेक्ट मिक्सचर, ICI के हिस्ट्री बुक्स में इनका परमानेंट पिक्चर. CA राजन काबरा, एक नाम, एक क्लास, एक वाइब. रैंक 1 का यही है असली प्रोटोटाइप. सो दोस्तों, tighten your seatbelts and loosen your jaws. It is my absolute honor to now welcome before you all the triple topper, the thinker, the strategist, and pride of the CA community. Give it up for the man who turned rank 1 into an habit, CA Rajan Kabra. Over to Sarthak and Shrutika.
So, from securing 378 in CA Foundation to getting AIR 1 in both CA Intermediate and Final, what's the core mindset or system behind this unshakable consistency? How did it all start from?
So basically, firstly, I would want to thank you so much for the introduction. It was a very good one. Thank you so much for that. And coming to the question, about how has this journey been and what drove me in general. So I remember, one of the quotes by the Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos, he usually says this thing that when you are, in your old age and you're sitting with your grandkids, you should not tell them कि यार अगर ऐसा होता तो वैसा हो जाता, वैसा होता वैसा होता. Basically, he was trying to convey that there should be no regrets in life later. and that is something which I personally followed as a, as a principle in life, all throughout my CA journey, at least, because I came to know about that particular principle later. But the core behind it was कि the main focus is in general आपको life में later in life you should not have any regrets. So that was something which as a principle or something where that gives you ability and that gives you a motivation to work your best and give your best, and that is something which helped me throughout, because obviously there are situations when you want to give up and etc. But उस time पे remembering the fact that the principle which you started, it was giving your best and not regretting later. तो मुझे बाद में I did not want after any of the examinations कि ऐसा होना चाहिए कि भाई do this thing right, I could have done that thing right, शायद मेरे 10 नंबर बढ़ जाते, शायद मेरे 2 नंबर बढ़ जाते, whatever. So that was something which kept driving me, and I think people say that what's your secret sauce, etc. So I don't think there's a secret sauce, but I think there's that mindset and that principle that I followed, which might have helped. Yeah.
Like a lot, we often hear कि एग्जाम के लिए 5 दिन बचे और मिल जाते तो हो जाता, एंड ये रिग्रेट अपने को पता है कि होता है, बट यू लिव बाय इट कि नहीं होना चाहिए ये रिग्रेट. वेरी फ्यू पीपल आर एबल टू हैव दैट डिसिप्लिन. So moving on, I would like to ask you, when you first heard your name as AIR1, and what was running through your mind in the first 5 seconds, and who was the first person you called?
Okay, so basically, answering the first part of the question. So I was obviously, because in my intermediate exam also I did the same, and in my final exam also did the same. Obviously, because results usually come around 10, 12 in the morning, so I was sleeping at 8 o'clock in the morning, and like, ठीक है, results आएंगे जो होगा होगा, ठीक है, देख लेंगे. So I was sleeping, and I don't know what happened, but my number was not reachable. So the president of the institute could not call me. Apparently, one of the central council members who is in the exam committee knew my father, because my father is also a chartered accountant. So he knew my father, and I've interacted with my father. So because my number was not reachable, so he called up my father, and I was very fortunate, and I feel very proud, because my father came to know that I have received an All India Rank 1 in CA Finance before me. So that was like a very proud achievement for me, because he came to know, and then he woke me up, and then he was and because he was on call, so he was kind of dumb charading with my mother and saying, "Yeah, wake him up. He has got an All India Rank 1." And since he woke me up, and because obviously in the first 5 seconds I was like, "Ha, theek hai, matlab, this might be a prank call." But then because the fact that the call came to my father, I was like, "Ha, theek hai, prank call nahi ho sakta. ये पापा को कौन call करेगा और बोलेगा ऐसा prank call." So that was something. I know first 5 seconds तो वो इसमें चले गए कि हाँ ठीक है, is this true, is this not true, because I've just woke up. So ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि it can be a dream. So that was something, and I literally said my mother to pinch me कि भाई हाँ मतलब सच है या नहीं, to get that thing. So that was an instant 5 second thing, and just then फिर तो I was talking with the president of the institute, and yeah, he was congratulating me, and I was being grateful. So I think that was something during that time. And talking about the first person whom I called up, so I did not call up a few folks, but I just dropped them a message. These were some of my mentors, some of my very good friends, 4, 5 folks who had been in constant touch during the study leave period and also earlier. So I dropped them a message, and just he got AR1 and just passed it nicely. And then they called up and said, okay, congratulations, and then the talks went out, and everything went public, because Twitter पे तब तक announce हो गया था, etc.
It literally gave me goosebumps कि मतलब पापा से फर्स्ट टाइम सुनना कि भाई तू AR1 है तो sure. So articles about KPMG, industrial training at BCG, both extremely demanding roles. How did that work out for you?
So, firstly, talking about the role at KPMG, so this was in taxation, like corporate and international tax. Obviously, there are some periods when thoda sa slack season hota hai, and then there are peak seasons, etc. So, peak seasons, mein, to obviously you cannot do anything else. You have to focus on work, etc. But slack seasons, mein, when you have a little bit of time, help me. Uh, उस time पे I used to study वगैरह. That was something which helped. Apart from that, I think one of the very good opportunities that we as CA students have is working with such big corporates at very early stage in life. Because when I joined KPMG, I was around 19 or 20. And that is something when you're joining a big four accounting firm and at such a young age in the corporate world, there are a lot of learnings happening. I still remember, my manager used to teach me every single day is something new coming up. So I think that corporate experience is obviously, even when I say with my friends and when we talk 3 years down the line how things have worked out. So usually say that we're very immature, मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा immature थे when we started during a C intermediate journey. Like I usually say कि उस time पे हम बच्चे थे, and now we have become mature over the period of 3 years with different experiences in articleship and managing articleship with studies, also with because I was living in hostel, so away from home, so you have to manage your personal life as well, you have to manage your studies as well as your articleship. So I think that was a very wholesome and holistic experience. And obviously, managing things comparatively has got easier now for the next generation of CA students because they have got a good study leave and a better balance between 2 years of articleship and then a study leave. I think that is better for them, but for us who had to do it for 3 years and manage stuff, थोड़ा सा difficult था, थोड़ा सा मुश्किल था, obviously. And obviously because ये corporates they are more demanding, बहुत ज़्यादा stressful भी होता है, but at least some part of the consulting world is stressful. And obviously when you're before your examinations, exactly before study leaves. So my study leave began in January, and around September or October I was traveling. From October to December I was traveling all across Madhya Pradesh on a case at BCG. And because you're traveling like around 6 hours a day in general on road, and also traveling, coming to and fro every weekend to Mumbai or back to home. So something which was very stressful, and because but somewhere down the line I knew that I was signing up for it. And hence उस time पे मैंने ये दिमाग में रख लिया कि ठीक है, for the next 4 months I'm not going to get any time for studies, and it's better cover up things earlier. So I think that was something which helped me manage because I was mentally I had said myself कि ठीक है, any which ways I know that उस 4 महीने में कुछ पढ़ाई नहीं होने वाली. So I think that helped me.
So, sir, you have mentioned that you have lived in a hostel and you come from a very famous hostel, RVG. And memories are often life defining in RVG. So, what's one unforgettable incident from your hostel that shaped you emotionally, professionally, or personally?
I can't remember one particular incident because every month there is something coming up. So there is no one incident which shapes you, but the entire process of the journey that generally shapes. Because I would say I have often said this even at different forums. Is that when I joined RVG, उस time पे I was like कि क्या ही होगा, सारे CA students होंगे, everyone would be studying, सब पढ़ाई करते रहेंगे और सुबह उठेंगे, ऑफिस जाएंगे, शाम में आएंगे, पढ़ाई करेंगे, whatever, that would be same routine and everybody would be in the same loop. But the one thing that I found out, and I think which is very special about RVG, is even if everyone is a CA student, all of us come from very different passions, very different ideologies, different thinking, different backgrounds. So, you can find a guy who is very good at poetry, you can find a guy who is very good at storytelling, who is find a guy very good at acting. You can interact with a lot of folks with different passions and skills. So it's not like everyone is in the same boat or sub same boat mein chal rahe and everyone is doing the same stuff. It is like there's a holistic experience. If you want to talk to someone on history, you can talk to that person. So literally, while the two I was there at 3 years, after 2 years I was in a position where I knew कि हाँ ठीक है, मुझे अगर हिस्ट्री के किसी से बात करनी है तो this would be the right person. मुझे अगर पॉलिटिक्स के बारे में किसी से बात करनी है, this would be the right person. Maybe if I want to talk with someone who knows कि हाँ आगे कौन से कॉन्फ्रेंसेस आने वाले हैं to participate in, this would be the right person. So that is kind of network, that's kind of specialization and everything, holistic development view. And that really helped me because even as I mentioned, when I started after CA intermediate, I see myself, and even when we talk with friends, we see ourselves like we are just small children, बच्चे थे जब we started CA intermediate, मासूम से बच्चे थे जो अपने सिटी से बाहर आए थे मुंबई में. But as we grew up, so not the 3 years is not just about the articleship experience, about balancing studies and other, but also that experience living in a hostel, and where you're because I had to change my entire sleep routine while I was in hostel. So I've been an early morning person. Even during my study leave, I was an early morning person. But because you are living in hostel, you cannot sleep early and wake up early. वो बहुत issue हो रहा है. It becomes difficult, because everyone is waking up till 9, and शोर शराबा होता है obviously. So I, changed my entire routine for that particular hostel, for that vibe, for enjoying the community which grew there. So I don't think there is one particular incident, but I think that 3 year journey has been something which has been life defining, both personally, emotionally, and other stuff. Yeah.
इवन हमारे क्लब में इवन आई नो फ्यू पर्सन फ्रॉम आरवीजी, तो आरवीजी तो पूरा मतलब टैलेंट का भंडार ही है, एंड लर्निंग देयर एंड ऑल, इट्स रियली अ ग्रेट अपॉर्चुनिटी फॉर सीए स्टूडेंट्स. एंड
Yeah.
आपने तो बहुत अच्छा किया ही है. You studied through online mode and recorded lectures. How did you avoid procrastination and maintain self accountability? Any personal hack that actually worked for you?
Uh, I think uh, for avoiding procrastination, more or less, it's about your discipline. The external motivation, वगैरह तो ठीक है. More is about your discipline, and I think one thing which, in general, CA students fail to do, and also something which should be done is planning and keeping a buffer during the time. Because from CA intermediate to CA final, वो 3 साल का period है, and there's a very long period because you have to complete the lectures, थोड़ा revision करोगे, mocks होगे, etc., etc. So I think उस टाइम पीरियड में which something which helped me because I had a broad timeline कि हाँ ठीक है 2 महीने में ये लेक्चर्स करने हैं 3 months में ये लेक्चर्स करने हैं depending on the subject कि FR will take maybe 4 months, AFM will take maybe 2.5 months, or it will take 2 months. उस हिसाब से एक broad timeline बनाना and also understanding and looking that other facts and other facets which will come in your in general personal life. Like I knew that कि industrial training जाना है तो maybe उस time पे I'll not be able to study. So I think that broad timeline is something which helped me. Second, about procrastination and anything, I think one very important, and I was fortunate to get a very good friend circle. So when you are seeing your friends studying and when you are seeing everyone, so obviously I was living in hostel, so that was an added advantage. कि भाई मैं आसपास देख रहा हूँ कि सब लोग ठीक है लेक्चर्स देख रहे हैं, दे आर डूइंग द लेक्चर्स एक्सेट्रा एंड रिकॉर्डिंग्स कर रहे हैं, एवरीवन इज देयर इज थोड़ा सा पढ़ाई का माहौल है बिकॉज obviously there are cycles, जब कोई इवेंट आ रहा है तो everyone is involved in the event, but जब कोई इवेंट नहीं है then you go back to the study. So that is something which help कि you are seeing others कि हाँ ठीक है वो भी lectures देख रहे हैं, वो भी पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं, so that gives you kind of motivation and kind of discipline कि हाँ ठीक है यार सब पढ़ रहे हैं मुझे भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. So that is something which helped me. Other than there's no personal hack as such, but I think preparing a broad timeline and sticking to that timeline. Obviously, sticking to that timeline is harder done than said. But I think that is something which was more or less which helped. There's no specific hack or something which I can remember right now. But I think more or less it's about having a group of friends maybe where you can have an interaction where you're keeping track of each other's revisions or maybe in lectures in the first sense and maybe revisions later where you are doing your self study, etc. I think that is something which might help.
So, according to you, does securing the rank in CA truly change the career trajectory compared to the just clearing it? And can you share one real opportunity that came your way only because of your rank?
Okay, so firstly, for CA intermediate as well as CA final, I think rank does give you an added advantage over a non-ranker. Obviously, there are certain opportunities which are open to only rankers. Examples could be somewhere in industrial training. Also, there are certain core finance opportunities which are available only to rankers, uh, or maybe preferred for rankers. Also, for after CA, after clearing finals, I think there are certain opportunities, something like a leadership program that many companies do hire for. So I think one thing that I have seen is having a rank in CA final makes you at least comparable or competitive with MBA graduates. I think that is something which I have seen in general because the kind of opportunity that MBA graduates were is that same opportunities you can get as a CA final ranker as compared to a CA who has cleared maybe in the first time but who has not got a rank. So I think that is something जहाँ पे एक comparable statute आता है and you become competitive more as compared to a non-ranker. And a real opportunity, मतलब, there are plenty of them in general, which are just say, for example, many companies which generally do hire or prefer rankers as compared to non-rankers. So these are all about leadership programs, certain core finance companies, even consulting companies prefer rankers over non-rankers. So I think this is generally known to public at large that there are also certain preferences for rankers in terms of employment, and also for CA intermediate rankers in terms of industrial training and articleship, etc.
Sir, even AIR ones have no meaning in their life. आपकी लाइफ में कभी ऐसा कोई मोमेंट था जहाँ आपको बहुत ज्यादा सेल्फ डाउट था, आपने वो सेल्फ डाउट को बहुत अच्छे से टैकल किया, यू बाउंस बैक रियली वेल, ऐसा कोई इंस्टेंस?
See, I think self doubt तो होता है मतलब this is very normal. If you're not having self doubt, you're not you. ठीक है, this is what I think. So I think one एक चीज जो constantly hit me during at least my CA final prep because हुआ ये था कि all of my friends mostly have gotten 5.5 months, 6 months का leave and I was sitting with 4 months का leave जिसके पहले के 4 months I have not studied anything. मतलब थोड़ा बहुत किया था because DD के amendment lectures वगैरह थे pending थे that I did. उसके अलावा I had not studied anything. So when I started in January 2025 study leave के time पे उस time पे obviously there was that thing in mind कि हाँ ठीक है यार सब लोग पहले से पढ़ना शुरू कर चुके हैं. They have at least gone through the first revisions. My friends were asking doubts on direct tax, indirect tax और मैं यहाँ पे AFM से start कर रहा हूँ. So that was something जहाँ पे थोड़ा थोड़ा ऐसा doubt triple up होने लग गया था कि ठीक है like I don't know if this would be something, the confidence was lower as compared to what it was in CA intermediate. And even I've told this to my mentors even during April वगैरह भी कि the confidence is comparatively lower as compared to what it was in CA intermediate, because CA intermediate में you had a long period of time, mocks works दिए थे ज़्यादा, more confident as compared to CA final. So obviously I was not starting I was comparing with others, but then later a period of time I started comparing with myself, my CA intermediate वाला part and then now. तो वो थोड़ा सा कि obviously I was low on confidence as compared to CA intermediate, वो सारी चीजें थी. But I think more or less, obviously self doubt hota hai. I remember somewhere between February, end of February and March, where I cried in front of my parents कि यार ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है, अब शायद नहीं, मतलब पता नहीं कैसे होगा, whatever ऐसा ऐसा. And then my father soothing me कि हाँ ठीक है, कोई नहीं हो जाएगा, you have done this much and everything. Because even at that time, because I was more broke down because of the fact that my sister was home during the first 2 months of my study leave, but then she had to join her post graduation program, so she had to leave. So obviously, I've grown up with her across the last 22 years, and hence even she was not able to give me time because I used to study. I used to share my schedules, my timetable, etc. with her. तो वो सब भी नहीं होने लग गया था, तो थोड़ा सा डीप डाउन आई वाज काइंड ऑफ मेंटली एंड थोड़ा सा डिवास्टेटेड काइंड ऑफ. थोड़ा सा उस टाइम ऐसा हो गया था कि यार पता नहीं, मतलब सेल्फ डाउट वगैरह आने लग गया था. बट देन आई थिंक having talked with my parents, talked with some friends, mentors, because I think one of the most important fact that in general we as humans have, that we can talk and connect with each other emotionally very well. So wo something helped me a lot, because whenever I used to not feeling well, I was mentally or physically or whatever. So I used to talk not just with my parents and my sister, but also with my mentors, my friends, etc. तो वो हमेशा एक बूस्ट देते कि यार ठीक है तूने इंटरमीडिएट में कर लिया, ये कर लेगा, मतलब see it's not a fact of so I was it's not a fact of something कि मतलब obviously everyone would say कि हाँ ठीक है, do not focus on that particular aspect कि हाँ तुम्हारा पहला रैंक आया तो you are aiming now for rank again. But again वो कोई ना कोई self doubt होता है. So I think more or less it's more about talking with people. And I think talking with people helped me a lot as compared to any other hack as such, which brings you out of this self-doubt wala situation. Because when you are self-doubting yourself, bakiyon se jo confidence milta hai, that gives you a self-confidence. So I think that is something which generally helps. And I think you should have at least, 2 to 3 mentors, 2 to 3 good friends, and obviously family to hai. So a small circle will keep you emotionally strong, is what I feel.
Thank you so much, sir, for being such so raw with us. बिकॉज हम लोग को लगता है कि रैंकर्स का खाली एक ही पॉइंट रहेगा कि मेरे इस बार रैंक मिस ना हो जाए, वही उनका ऐसा सेल्फ डाउट पॉइंट रहेगा. But when you say about your low moments, so in your opinion, what is that one major mistake that most CA students unknowingly make during their preparations that stops them from scoring big?
I think one thing which I was also telling earlier is not planning, because I knew some of my friends who failed to plan, because CA intermediate to CA final is a 3 year journey. So you have to plan lectures, you have to plan a broad timeline. Obviously, to minute timelines नहीं जा सकते, and those timelines would not obviously work because something or other comes up. So you need to keep a buffer as well. I think that broad planning is something which somewhere I have seen my friends or some of my acquaintances lack. So I think that is one thing which can be improved in general, because uh, I think CA is not about the course is not that tough. The course is very vast. So when you know that the course is vast and you know that you need to revise more, you need to revise better, it is very important that you plan things, because the course is vast. You have to do some written writing practice. You will have to revise it multiple times. Subjects like audit, etc., theoretical subjects. So you have to plan better way. You have to plan the 3 years. Obviously, you give time from fun, etc. But you give a broad time. Like you say, for example, 3 months में ये करना है, next 3 months target ये होना चाहिए, next 4 months target ये होना चाहिए, whatever. And obviously, you keep a buffer of maybe around 5 to 6 months, because 3 years, 5 6 months is fine as a buffer, I think. So I think more or less that planning and timeline situation is one thing. Second, I think somewhere this culture has developed that everyone is focusing on getting those 40 marks or getting those 50 marks. I think if you're aiming for 40 marks, I don't think anyone would get 40 marks if you're aiming for 40 marks. If you're aiming for 60, you will get 50. You're aiming for 80, you will get 60, is what I feel. So I think that mindset is something which is prevalent in the CA student community as such. कि हाँ ठीक है 40 लाने हैं 40 पे पास होना है. And also then that study pattern becomes that way कि हाँ ठीक है selected कुछ chapters कर लेंगे 40-50 marks के, and then we'll have 100% accuracy in that. I don't think that works. I simply feel that you have to focus on getting, say, for example, 80 marks, and then you will fall somewhere in 60 to 70 is what I personally feel. And I think this is what more or less anyone who has scored big would tell you, or anyone who has passed the exam the first time would tell you that, okay, they were aiming for maybe 60, 70 marks and that they got 40, 50 marks or whatever the number is. I think aiming high and then, because as it's said that you aim for the moon and you will land in the stars, which is scientifically incorrect, but TK. So I think that is something which is important from a mindset perspective, and again, planning, as I mentioned.
Perfectly said, sir. जो आपने बोला सब बराबर है. Outside academics, what are some hobbies, creative passions, or skills to actively pursue? Something people wouldn't expect from an AIR one.
को expect का तो पता नहीं, because I am a person who does not want to live from people's expectation point of view. But in general, as maybe everyone knows, in general, I have found of politics and history, etc. So I love reading fiction, non-fiction. Kabhi keep switching between them depending on what mood I am in. But in general, I think there is no something a very crazy skill or some crazy hobby that I pursue. I love reading. I love interacting with people and having a long conversations as compared to small talks and etc. So if you say me that I have to talk with two people, for example, 3-4 hours, I can do that. But if you tell me to do a small talk with 15 people while we are standing in some conference or some expo, it's something difficult for me, obviously, because I want to have a longer connect, a deeper connect with people. I love doing that. And another thing, I think in general, I love interacting with folks, as I mentioned, and also the fact that I love pursuing and guiding folks as such. Like in RVG, also in hostel, there have been juniors whom I love interacting with them, sharing the knowledge that maybe I have gained and also getting knowledge from them. It's something which I love in general. So it's not a hobby or a passion of something that kind, but ठीक है, मतलब मजा आती है. Apart from that, थोड़ा बहुत जनरल नॉलेज वगैरह क्विजेस वगैरह में पार्टिसिपेट करते रहता हूँ. तो आई थिंक मोर और लेस देयर इज नो क्रेजी हॉबी एज सच, बट हाँ ठीक है, रीडिंग जीके एक्सेट्रा. सो आई एम मोर फॉन्ड टुवर्ड्स a holistic approach, a holistic thing about apart from the normal CA curriculum वगैरह, उसके अलावा भी keep reading and keep digging at things. That is something which I like.
So as you have mentioned about your extra hobbies, so like in today's day, a lot of CA students are like overwhelmed कि उनको CA भी करना है, उनको LinkedIn भी maintain करना है. They want to do several different courses at the same time. So what would be your framework for prioritizing in the right order?
I think it depends on what kind of hobby, passion, or skill you have. So, say for example, I personally love participating, as I mentioned, quizzes, conferences, वगैरह. So obviously, then when an event comes up, uske 10-15 दिन पहले you start preparing for that particular stuff. So I think that switching is very much important, where you're focusing when there is nothing coming up. Or say, for example, if someone is into poetry or someone is into storytelling, etc. So obviously, then there's certain shows or something that comes up, some competitions that come up, or in general, they do pursue that particular thing. So I think prioritizing in sense, I feel, is जब तुमको पता है कि there's no event coming up or there's not something greatly coming up which wants your attention, then you focus on studies during that particular time. When you know that an event is coming up, you take studies on the back seat. So I think, see, if you, for example, if you have 2 hours a day after work and other stuff for yourself for studying and following your passions, then you prioritize in between. So say, for example, you know that, say, for example, a competition is coming up, as I mentioned, then maybe giving around 80 to 75% of your time for that particular thing, and 20-25% for other stuff. I think that is some kind of prioritizing that needs to be done. I think more or less it depends on what kind of hobby or skill you have. If your hobby or skill requires you to practice daily, then you have to contribute that much time. If there's something which comes up, say, for example, twice in a month or maybe once in a month or something of that sort, you can manage things.
Sir, rank one demands not just hard work but elite discipline. What did that average 24-hour of Rajan Kabra life look during peak prep period?
ठीक है. So basically, I need an 8 hour sleep. So this is something which is non-negotiable for me. For two reasons, I think. Firstly, I want to be peaceful and calm while I am studying. That is one number one. So I need the sleep. And second thing is, I think because you're working, your mind is working continuously, and it needs its rest. Is something which I feel to be calm and to be peaceful, etc. So that is something. So 8 hours sleep तो हो गया, तो 8 घंटे तो निकल गए. So apart from that, 16 hours, I feel more or less because I have been an early morning person, at least in my study leave, and obviously in my CA intermediate. So more or less, used to wake up early in the morning around 5 or 6, and basically I'm a person who cannot stretch for very long hours. So maybe if I'm sitting for 1.5 hour, I would need a break of around 10 to 15 minutes. There's some which word is technique, I don't remember the word, but it is more or less I've developed that particular thing, not looking at the technique, but from what I've done, मैंने बोला कि हाँ ये technique है जो मैं follow कर रहा हूँ. So that is something where you're working for you're studying or maybe sitting at a stretch for a small period of hours. Say for example somewhere close to 30 minutes to 1.5 hour, and then taking a break of 10 15 minutes depending on कितना तुमने पहले study किया. I think I'm more or less that kind of person. And from 24 hours, as we are talking about, to 8 hours to study sleep में चले गए. Apart from that 16 hour, I think more or less I used to study close to 8 to 10 hours. Never counted as such for two things. Number one, I had targets based on what I had to cover for that particular day, rather than on the timing I'm giving for that particular day. Number one, and number two, focus. Obviously, I think more or less everyone says this. You have to focus more on the quality of the time that you're giving rather than the quantity of the time. So I think 8 to 10 hours somewhere, when peak periods or sometime during the, exactly 1.5 day before exam, तो वो 12 घंटे हो जाता है, 12 13 घंटे हो जाता है obviously. Apart from that, तो बाकी तो फिर chill है, then you take breaks, कुछ खा लो बीच में, whatever. I think more or less it's because during that peak phase you're not looking at something, so you completely stop from certain things. You have to sacrifice certain things. So during that time, I had stopped looking at geopolitical stuff, etc. वो सब मैंने रोक दिया था, फाइनेंस वगैरह सारा रोक दिया था. एंड उसकी वजह से जब वो इंडिया पाकिस्तान वाले क्लैशेस हुए थे तो मुझे फोमो भी हुआ था कि यार शिट आई एम नॉट फोकसिंग ऑन दिस थिंग फॉर माय ऑफ माय लाइफ ड्यूरिंग दिस टाइम. दैट वाज लाइक ठीक है, अभी एक बार से फाइनल हो जाएगा, उसके बाद देख लेंगे.
Talking about why, we have built this platform TWC with the vision of holistic development and are compiling an anthology titled Education. What are your thoughts on this initiative? If you were a CA student, what would have you chosen to write in your write-up?
Okay, so this is very one of the kind initiative. I've never heard something of this kind happening in the CA community. Yeah, ऐसा कुछ. So even when I think Daria told me and also you told me on this thing, I was more like, okay, yeah, this is something new that's happening. This is for the first time that this is coming up. So I was like a spark of excitement comes up कि हाँ ठीक है कुछ नया हुआ है. There is something on the initiative. I think great initiative. Kudos on that for you guys. Something that I would write is, I think, more or less, I think everyone sees a CA student from a lens that he must be studying every day, managing work, and doing that stuff. And not just CA student in general, that they have a boring life, etc., etc. But also when you think from rankers, when you see someone that हाँ ये भैया ये rank लेके आया है, etc., etc. So he must be studying 24/7, etc., etc. I think if I would be someone who would write, I think because more or less, I think had I been in a position to write, I would mostly have written about the fact that okay, more or less, this is not a boring life for CA student. Number one, and number two, on the fact that apart from the CA curriculum, apart from the CA studies, there are a lot of more of things where you can focus your life on, and also participate and do other stuff other than the CA core CA stuff and technical stuff, and focusing much on that, and also manage both of them, and also do academically well in the CA stuff. So I think this is more or less I would love to write, and also give a perspective that a CA ranker or a CA who is clearing in the first attempt, or whatever clearing is not just leading a boring life, and he's also enjoying his own stuff. I think more or less on that theme.
That's what we are here to prove, sir. कि हम लोग बोरिंग बिल्कुल नहीं है. हम कुछ ना कुछ अच्छा करना ही चाहते हैं. बट वो पढ़ाई के प्रेशर में हम कुछ अच्छा कर नहीं पाते. अब नाउ व्हाट वी आर डूइंग इज जैसे जैसे थोड़ा थोड़ा टाइम मिलता है हमें पूरे दिन में, वी ट्राई टू यूटिलाइज इट प्रॉपर्ली एंड हम ये सब कर रहे हैं. सो दैट इज प्रोडक्टिविटी फॉर अस.
Yeah.
So yes, we have prepared a special rapid fire for you. Try to
Okay.
answer as quick as you can.
Sure.
So, one habit that changed your life forever.
I think the principle that I mentioned of not regretting, not as a habit, but yeah,
If not CA, what career would you be pursuing right now?
maybe something in economics.
One thing CA students should stop doing immediately.
I don't know. Not coming up very quickly.
Okay. One myth about AI, all India rankers that is totally false.
We are reading or maybe studying 24/7.
One book, podcast, or a person that deeply impacted you.
I don't think there is one particular thing. More or less there is multiple things and hence can't name one.
Thank you so much, sir. Over to our official emoji, Satakshi.
What a truly wow conversation this has been. Some speakers inform, some inspire, but then there are a rare few who ignite something within you. And today, Rajan sir did exactly that. You reminded us that success isn't about being the loudest in the room. It is about being the most consistent when no one is watching. So here is a huge thank you to Rajan sir for proving that intelligence can have warmth, humility can have power, and that being number one does not mean standing above others. It means lifting others up with you. I would also like to share that once our anthology Education is published, TWC will be honoring you with a special token of gratitude for being a proud and inspiring TWC ambassador. On behalf of the Winner Circle, we are grateful for your time, insights, and your authenticity. You didn't just speak to audience, you spoke to an generation of dreamers telling them that the grind is worth it. A warm thank you to the TWC team for crafting yet another episode connecting hearts, mind, and ambitions. Thank you to our audience for being with us in this wow episode, and do let us know your key takeaways in the comments down below. Remember, you are no more alone on this journey. You are now part of the TWC family. As we close today's episode, one thought lingers. Greatness isn't built in the moment of applause, but in the silence of effort no one sees. And today, Rajan sir reminded us of that truth beautifully, powerfully, and humbly. Thank you, Rajan, for being our guest, our inspiration, and our wow of the day. For time being, this is me, Satakshi Agrawal, signing off.